These last 7 years have been tough times, economically and hence emotionally. The kind of atmosphere that overrides our sensibility and can erode and crush our pride and our self-esteem. Today on FIT TV, we have author Doreen Guma and contributor and life coach Heidi Krantz, who will walk us through how to help yourself to life worth living, whether times are tough or not. A life that you deserve and one that is more than possible. It can be tangible. Welcome, Doreen and Heidi.
Thank you for having us.
This is on my left, Doreen Guma, and on her left, Heidi Krantz.
Hi.
And on her left, Gary Jacobs, family law reformer. Okay, so what was your primary motivation for writing this great book? If I knew then what I know now.
Well, there's a really big lead up to this book. It actually was something that I said in the year of 2004. After 20 years, I finally completed my master's degree. And then I was like, so now what? So I work in a nursing home. I'm a board certified healthcare executive with 28 years working in healthcare. And I happened to be in the lobby of the nursing home, and I said, you know, I need to write a book called If I Knew Then What I Know Now. My chapter is going to be always striving for the brass ring, you know, because that's what we do, right? We're in America, we're striving. Are we happy? So 9 years later, the book became a book. And the book follows the time to play philosophy of you have to be happy, healthy, have money, and a work-life balance. And along the way, I found people, one was Heidi, which is useful in giving person like some inspiration, like how we picked ourselves up, dusted ourselves off, and are enjoying life. And that's how the book became. Your
book is a kind of a collection of people who authored certain sections, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, so Heidi has a section in that.
Correct.
You want to try and tell me a little bit about your section, Heidi?
So my chapter is called Break Up to Breakthrough. And it's a bit of my own personal story of going through a difficult divorce and navigating to a happier, more confident, successful place in my life. And kind of my desire to impart that to others and really motivate and inspire others for when they're feeling in that dark, low, challenged place, that it won't always be that way. And kind of some strategies of how to move it along. So Doreen and I really connected around this project, and my chapter really fit right in with the theme of the book.
So your section is about ending something and then carrying through to go somewhere else.
Yes, exactly. The start of a new journey. It's about new beginnings, and my chapter happens to be when a significant relationship ends.
You know, I read the book, and one of the things that I found interesting is that you have all the different chapters. It's not just one person saying, here's what I did and here's what happened.
Right.
Because going through these difficult situations, we tend to say, well, you know, are we the only person that's doing this? And we can't believe that the world is even going on while I'm going through this horrible, horrible pain. And seeing the different people, and every one of those people had a happy ending that turned it into something positive. And in fact, one of the stories that touched me is we all have something in our life that just it's an experience that changes our lives. And there was a story in your book about going on the boat one day and having papers go flying everywhere, and it would seem insignificant, but that touched you. And how did that, tell us that story and how that changed your life?
In my life, like I said, always striving for the brass ring, right? So you sometimes get so caught up in your day-to-day that you lose the day, right? So I would work. That's how I felt good. So each of us have a self-destructive behavior. And if you look at yourself, you'll realize that you do, whether it's eating too much or whether it's drinking
Not
too
me.
much. Or well,
Unless
but
you
you know what
in
I'm
my
saying.
direction.
I'm only kidding.
So mine was
Everybody's got something,
mine was
right?
working.
Yeah.
Mine was achieving. Every time I achieved, if I had a good day, I would have done some good stuff. You know, I live to be happy now. I really do. And what that taught me, the issue with the papers flying off the boat when I'm supposed to be enjoying my family, when I'm supposed to be having a good time, is, wow, you know, what am I doing? And my biggest thing, and what I've written in chapter 2 is We Are All Tortured Souls. That's the name of the chapter. And if somebody stopped you, because you do think you're alone, you do think you're the only one in this entire situation, right? But if somebody stopped you and sat you down and said, hey, I noticed that you are blah, blah, blah. wouldn't that be so useful? And in retrospect, and I wrote that in here as well, if somebody had said to me, this is how you're behaving, this is what you're doing. Like, it took me 20 years to get my master's degree.
Would you have believed it when I told you that?
You know what? It might have made me spark, and that's what we're trying to do in the whole entire Time to Play foundation. We are a 501c3 corporation. Our short version of our mission is inspiring everyone to enjoy life. And I think planting seeds in people, and maybe I wouldn't have known at that moment, but maybe it wouldn't have taken me 20 years.
It was kind of a trigger then. It was a trigger moment.
Exactly. You start to identify, you start to, and that's one of the things that we've been doing is through the book, hopefully you'll find something in there that will resonate with you. Through the, I have these little reminders to enjoy life chips. You know, so if anybody's interested in these, if you contact me, we'll send you one. But they say a reminder to enjoy life, and they have a little time to play slogan on them.
I use this term all the time when I'm goofing around with people and having fun, is that we have to create time to play.
We have to take.
And you should do that with your relationship too.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really all across. If we are not enjoying the situation that we're in at this very moment, we have a choice. I made these stop signs. We actually, if anybody wants one of these too, or you could just make a stop sign, but it says stop, it's your choice. So I actually used these for a course I had taught. I'm a New York State Department of Health Diabetes Prevention Counselor. I took that education because there's a significant portion of our population who's at risk. And I just wanted to learn. I wanted to see. So I did a class and I taught the people. And it's just amazing how it doesn't matter what is the situation, it's up to us to make that decision and that choice to change. So we can hate being at work. We can be like, oh my God, it's the worst thing ever, 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 right?
Yeah.
But we still continue to do it. It's our choice to make that change. It's our choice.
At a time like this, when the economy is stifling, that's why I put that in my opening, because I felt that a lot of people are having difficulty at this particular point in time. For the last 5 or 6 years too, it's been like this. And that maybe this might be an encouraging idea.
Absolutely.
For a lot of people at this time.
Absolutely.
More so maybe than others, right?
Yeah, so what I find so often in my coaching practice is really what holds people back is that lack of confidence. And if we can help to instill that confidence and belief in one's own success through what we do as coaches and through the book, that's really the starting place that ignites change. We have to have the confidence that we can do it. Part of how we instill that confidence is kind of through baby steps in terms of coaching people towards their goals and dreams. We don't jump to the top of the mountain. It's in the smallest achievable steps, and it's in celebrating each successive success.
Coaching is done, I always like the idea of coaching because you can make on-the-spot changes. You can create a place for that person to say, do you see the language that you're using now? You see how that kind of language would influence your decisions?
Yes.
That kind of thing.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting what you said is you have to take baby steps. I think, and why you need a life coach or a book to give you guidance is if you ask a friend, you know, they'll automatically say, well, this is what you need to do. Suck it up and go out there and do this. And you hang up the phone, you didn't get anything from it.
Yes.
But the baby steps, I think, is important that you realize that, look, there's a progression. And in the book, I read a chapter where you say, you know, stop blaming everybody else. Don't point your finger at everybody else. And I think it's human nature for us to say, you know what, when everything's going bad, you know, it's my judge's fault,
Absolutely.
it's my ex-wife's fault,
Absolutely.
it's my ex-husband's fault, it's the president's fault.
Yeah.
And you say, you know what, take credit for yourself. You're in charge of your own life. And, you know, tell us a little bit more about that, taking responsibility and recognizing that we have the power, giving us back. Sometimes it's easy, I think, to give somebody else the power. And you talk about that, but really you need to make the change.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that.
We have so much power, and we allow people to take that power from us because we have, and in the book we write the end, parting words. It says, I know now that a mind is a terrible thing to waste, but it's also a terrible thing to have. correct? So what do? But we dwell on stuff, and we blame, and we say, oh, I can't. I hate the word can't. And when somebody tells you you can't, do you believe them? And a lot of us do.
Not me.
Well, but a lot of us do. A lot of us say, oh my gosh, I can't get a new job. And you know, yes, maybe the economy is not how it was, you know, 30 years ago. Maybe it was easier. Maybe it was different. You know, jobs are getting more scarce because of technology taking opportunities. But you have to continue to change, and you have to continue to find something.
The message in the title of your book should be enough for people to contemplate a direction.
Absolutely.
If I knew then what I know now. Because most people go through transitions but are not always aware of what transitions they're going through, and if they're stuck in a bad place, or if they're negative or depressed about something, it is hard to get out of it. So a plan of action going forward would help everyone.
Absolutely. The first step is to identify. That's why I said, you know, like if you see yourself in this book, and this book is hugely powerful, hugely powerful. And here's one thing that we did discuss, which is very something that might be a tool for people. If something is happening in your life that you're not 1,000% happy with, write it down. Write it down. If there's goals that you want to accomplish, write them down, right? This is the best thing.
I do that all the time.
Right?
Tremendous power in the written word.
Lists on top, too many lists. Maybe I have to stop listing and doing.
But it's freeing too, correct? If you write it down, like this is the worst thing ever, like, you know, you want to write a nasty letter to your ex-wife that you're never going to send.
Right.
But it helps you make you feel better, right? But then you can start to plan. You know, I want to get a new job. Well, what is the job that you want to get? I want to get a new job in fashion design. Okay, well, what do you need to do to get that job?
What is the next best step?
What is the next best step?
Which is a great slogan. I like that.
What is the next best step?
Also in your book. So that's a plan of action.
Absolutely. We can do nothing and go through our day-to-day the same, or we could start to make that little change.
We want to focus on what we can control as opposed
Absolutely.
to what we can't control.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And you know, do it with a positive attitude, generate enthusiasm to propel forward, and in an organized, structured way. You know, when you feel you have an organized structure to create the change, it feels so much more doable.
When you coach,
Yes.
do you recommend while you're in flight with in a conversation with somebody? I'm asking because I do a little bit of that myself. I'm a divorce mediator, so sometimes I have to coach people into a better position without making a decision.
Yes.
Without making a decision, which is not so easy. Do you guide people along? Do you check people as they're going? How the conversation is going? Can you tell they're acting a certain way that might not be an advance for themselves?
Absolutely. You know, coaching is all about asking empowering questions. So I might share an observation and then ask the client, what's your reaction to that? How true does that feel to you? I'm not sure if that's what you mean in your question.
Yeah.
You know, yes, coaching is about asking empowering questions, bringing the wisdom forward from the client.
So Gary, we could have used some of that when we were going through our issues in court.
I think unfortunately you find this when it's too late. That's when you get there. But you know, when we were going through it, and I think, you know, you and I sit here and hold our heads up high, and we made something good out of it. And you see two powerful women sitting here. You're both smiling. You hold your heads up high, and you're helping other people. I think, and when I first met you, I felt right away. I said, you know, this woman has her act together and is making the best of a situation. But it wasn't always like this for you. And I read in your book, so I'm sure you don't mind me talking about it, that, you know, when you were 17, I think it was your 17, your father had left you.
Correct.
Which, wow, I mean, that's pretty traumatic. Some people could just, you know, fall apart for their whole life and say, you know what, my life was ruined.
Absolutely.
And Heidi, you went through a bad divorce. You know, with Doreen first, you know, what, if you don't mind just talking about that quickly,
No,
because how did you
absolutely.
transform? I mean, that could have been devastating.
Absolutely. And, you know, basically, again, it's your choice. You know, that's why one of the reasons it did take me that long to finish my master's degree, because I stopped going to school and I got a full-time job. and
Well, you're not perfect,
I paid
you
the
know.
mortgage.
You had to pay your dues in
Right.
whatever way it was.
And it wasn't always like this, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You weren't always
Right. Oh, no,
like,
no.
like you are now. You didn't wake up after your father left you and you said, hey, I'm going to write a book and
No.
become a successful
No,
person.
we had scarves from PTA and food stamps, and it was tough. My dad, we didn't know where he was for a whole year. He didn't care if we lived in a station wagon. He actually moved to Texas. This was 1983, I believe. There were very little child support regulations. Again, we didn't even know where he was for a year. We didn't know if he committed suicide. We had no idea what happened to him. And you know, my choice of not continuing my education at that time was because of that overwhelming. If we had a support, you know, and that's where the whole thing is. You know, there's so many things in our society that are like, shh, we don't talk about. We don't talk about mental illness. We don't talk about, oh my gosh, somebody's unemployed. We feel bad for them. You know, we feel bad for them. You know, we feel bad for people. What about saying, you know, and that's what a life coach is, and I am a certified life coach, and I understand that you do help the people, right? So what do? Is you facilitate with them. You help them find their path. You don't say to them, I believe you should, but you get them thinking about their
character assessment on
exactly.
Like
move forward. And in our society, I believe we have something I termed forever counseling, because we just go and we wallow, right? And we repeat and we rethink it. You know, I certainly could say that I wallowed in certain times of my life.
Well, you're human, you know. You got over that, and now...
Doreen brings up a great point with the word should, and I always emphasize this to clients when they're setting goals. If the word should is in your goal, you're probably not going to accomplish it, because should is somebody else's goal for you.
We call those action words,
and
make action statements.
Yes,
Yeah.
so if the goal is generated authentically by the client, that's what's going to make it successful, and not a coach or anyone else sitting there kind of shaking a finger of this is what needs to be done, because there's no buy-in to that process.
I think, you know, one of the, because we're starting to get towards the end, I wanted to bring up something. We've talked about people who are in the middle sort of this situation, you know, where they're not totally depressed, where they can't get out of bed, and they're not people who are just getting over. What do we say to somebody who is going through a divorce or a traumatic situation, because it's not just about divorce, and you get the sense that the person's suicidal, and they call up the average person watching the show and say, you know what, I'm just going to end my life, because this happens hundreds of times every week.
Absolutely.
And people going through divorce and more other things. Somebody calls up you or Heidi and says, you know what, I think I'm going to kill myself.
Okay.
Give us some advice on what to tell the person.
Absolutely. And in our life, look, we are only human. We do get to a point where we're just in such despair. My brother actually wrote a chapter called Lost and Then Found. You get to a point where you just don't know where to do. You lost your job, right? You have this looming bills, right? You're just desperate, right?
Things can become overwhelming.
Right. It could be that divorce situation. It could be anything, right? Well, in our community in Suffolk County, we have Responsive Suffolk County, and they are a 24-hour crisis center. And that is a recommendation.
Teamed up with Suffolk County.
Right. Responsive Suffolk County is a 24-hour crisis center. There are these crisis centers.
Would it be called the crisis hotline or something?
You call
like
the crisis hotline.
I think we're going to put the number on the bottom of the on the bottom of the screen.
If somebody does feel in that much despair, then that is an option. If you feel that you are of harm to yourself or others, then you can always go to the emergency department. I know that that's something, again, the problem that we have in our society is this is a taboo discussion. People don't want to talk about if they get to that extreme, and we hope that they don't. We hope that they don't.
But I think sometimes people call up and then they ask the layperson, hey, you know, I think I'm going to kill myself. What is that person? You know, what do you say to that person? It's easy to say go to a hospital, but a lot of times people aren't. We have to get them to that stage and get them over.
Correct.
You know, what is your advice? I know you're both not doctors, but either of us. You know.
One of the things that I explain to people, because we actually had this situation probably about 2 weeks ago, a very young girl, and I said, you know, this moment might, can I say the word suck on TV? Okay. this moment might suck, but the next moment won't, and the next moment won't. And
you may have to build a belief system in that person pretty quickly. I mean,
exactly.
That's a crisis time, isn't it?
Well, if they are truly a danger,
Right.
then they do need to have
Right.
intervention. If they are just a person that's in that despair, then you hope that you could give them hope, and that's
Right.
what this whole thing is. One more thing about triggers. There are these triggers that you can use. People have used like a rubber band. If they're getting into where they start to realize they're negative, if they realize. So find what works for you. Do not waste a moment of life. It is such a precious thing.
Yeah,
so.
sure. Just a quick one tying to what Gary and I do. There's a lot of dysfunction in children in divorce. Do you notice any of that? Are you able to coach children too? Do you work with children at all? Or is it something you connected or related to people that you coach, that their children are an issue, and do you ever discuss that?
So my expertise is not directly with children, but I would certainly refer to the appropriate professional for that help. Definitely many of my discussions with clients surround their parenting and their parenting issues, and I will definitely coach them through that. Again, they have the inner wisdom to make the right choices and the right decisions.
And realistically, in our book, it's, like you talk about my situation, my experience. I did not have counseling when I was younger, and we were in this significant divorce situation. It would have been a very helpful thing, and something as mediator and stuff that could be recommended.
We deal with that a lot. I was just wondering if you had done any of that work.
Well, there's specialized life coaches for youth.
Yeah.
And it is a special certification for that.
Well, your clients also talk about their children, so you relate to them in that regard.
Absolutely.
In terms of the parenting issues, as you explained just a moment ago.
What about getting together in groups? I know, when I was going through my situation, I looked and I said, wow, I used your word sucks. But then I looked back and somebody said to me, look at all the great people you met because of that.
Correct.
And I said, you know what? I mean, Chris and I have become friends for 10 years, and now I met you several months ago, and then now I met Heidi, and I've met a lot of really amazing people. Now I surround myself with people who are strong and who have turned their lives around, and I think that makes me a better person.
Absolutely.
And I think that's important. Is I was never a support group type of guy.
You call that drafting.
Right, exactly, drafting. And I think it's just not necessarily using the word support group, because many men don't like the word support groups. I personally don't like going to a support group. But just surrounding yourself with people who are positive to me is a big thing.
Absolutely. And
community is so important.
Correct. And through the foundation, the Time to Play Foundation, we have Club Time to Play, which is a fun place for us to do support. Heidi actually has a group called Break Up to Breakthrough that we do, and this way it is not like a counseling or wellness center, because who wants to go to a counseling or wellness center? But we're going to the Club Time to Play, and we're going to hang out, and we're going to love life.
And just the name, I think, play is more positive.
We got about 1 minute left. Is there any hot button issue we missed in the book? There's something you'd like to talk about?
Well, the book is massively powerful. So one thing that I wrote, and this one is for Chris, in the beginning of every book, I always write, it is so important for us to learn what we need to know to enjoy life, and our duty to help others do the same. And our experiences and what we do in our life, everybody has something to offer that can help somebody else. And this book is hugely powerful. It can totally pick somebody up. It can give somebody inspiration. And
where can they get the book?
We go on timetoplay.com. It's also on Amazon. It's on, the Barnes & Nobles, like all of it online. And it's available e-reader or hardcover. If you want me to sign it, just give us a call.
Thanks for signing mine.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much, Doreen Guma, the author of If I Knew Then What I Know Now, and Heidi Krantz to our left, and Gary Jacobs, of course. Thank you very much. Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. At FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to your TV every single week. My name is Chris DiMaggio. Thank you for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.
properly inflating my tires burns less fuel and saves me money on gas. Yeah, I'm saving Mother Nature from pollution, but more importantly, she saved me $11. Ow!
Environmental defense. Get green.
By keeping my car regularly tuned, I save money on gas and repairs. That also means cleaner air. You know, feels good to help save the cash, planet.
Environmental defense. Get green. For more tips, go to getgreen.com.
Introducing the all-new Enclave. It's a minivan to the max, with features like remote control sliding rear doors, 150 cable channels, a full sky view roof, temperature-controlled cup holders, and the 6-point navigation system. It's the minivan for families on the go.
Sweetheart, smoke outside now. You promise.
Okay, hon.
Sweetheart, smoke outside now. You promise.
What kind of man are you? I'm a father. Look here, my father was a father, and he smoked his brains out in the house.
Watch as he blows those smoke rings on my little red face.
You probably have asthma.
Asthma? Schmasma. I'm telling you, nothing's gonna happen to your kids. I swear.
Don't swear when you're lying. You know very well that thousands of kids get bronchitis, ear infections, and even pneumonia from their parents' cigarette smoke. And didn't you promise your little angels you'd smoke outside?
Hey, Daddy.
Those little devils are just so sweet.
Do the right thing.
Please, smoke outside.
Until you can stop, go out for your kids.
Take the pledge. Call 1-800-513-1157.